Welcome back to this month's Real Estate Roundtable, your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening across the real estate industry, straight from some of the industry's earliest technology adopters and foremost experts in technology, marketing, brokerage, government policy, capital construction. As always, this is a three-part show. Part one, introductions to each of your roundtable hosts and their unique business sector. Part two, we dive deep, unpack the biggest news and shifts happening in the industry affecting your business. Part three, what you can do to outpace your competition. I'm Andreas, Senie, CRECollaborative founder, brokerage owner, and commercial director at KW. Joining me this month, none other than Saul Klein, original internet evangelist, and part of the founding team for what is now Realtor.com and Futurist and all things real estate tech. Saul, nice to see you as always.
Likewise.
Chris Abel, membership director at Associated Builders and Contractors. Everything and anything you need, construction development. Rebecca Carlson, foremost marketing maven, founder and CEO, Carlson Integrated. Anna Maria Kowalik, Becca, nice to see you as well. Anna Maria Kowalik, director of business development, Inland Green Capital. Captain Anna Maria Kowalik. Oh, can I say that with Saul on the line? Captain Anna Maria Kowalik. And then none other than Dan Wagner, Senior VP, Government Relations, Mr. In and Out of the White House and the 1031 Exchange for this month's round table. Gentlemen, it's July. How was your 4th of July? It is exciting to be back. If you don't know, and for the audience, we are on our 71st episode here at the Roundtable.
Yay!
2,000 monthly downloads globally, with over 80% of our audience here in the U.S. And some of us are going to have to learn a few more languages because we've got quite a bit of, quite a strong audience now overseas. But what's going on? I'm going to go to my right, Captain Anna Maria. How is the summer heating up for you?
Everything is not only green, and the greenest it is all year, but also red, white, and blue. So I'm still vacationing in the lakes of Minnesota. So that's where I'm coming from to you today. But just generally speaking, things are picking up in some sectors. We're seeing a lot of CPACE activity and self-storage, more interest. There have been some recent conferences and things that actually help promote the product, and so we're seeing a little uptick there. From other standpoints across the industry, there's actually a lot of updated legislation going on in various states regarding CPACE. So a continual evolution of the program and the effect that it's going to have on the rest of the nation. So lots of good things happening.
And you're on vacation, Captain, and on vacation with a captain's hat, so it must be doing well
most
overall.
Certainly.
Well, it's going green with CPACE. I'm hearing great things more often from more people. People get it. They're looking for that capital. So I'm curious to learn more, especially as Dan weighs in on the policy changes, and Saul especially. Becca, you're also to my right. I think we're in the same order. I should know after 71 episodes, but you're to the right of Anna Maria on my screen. How are things going on your side of the world in the marketing?
Things are going really well in marketing. We're seeing a lot of interest in building some marketing strategies, ensuring that our clients' message regarding their own growth of their companies is really getting out there. We have some fantastic new clients who I love them all. I don't know if you know this. I love all my clients. They're just like the best people ever, besides you guys, of course. So it's been a very exciting and really fun summer for us. We have had some vacations within our company, which is nice to have everybody having a little bit more of that balance of being able to take a break, take a step back, refresh, recharge, and jump back in with a whole, a new, more relaxed perspective. So summer is a really fun time in marketing too.
Well, and people are on their phones all the time these days. Marketing is an unending battle, even when you're on vacation. Chris, on the construction front, marketing aside and financing aside, how are things?
Things are good. I normally don't do this. I know it's good to be back. It's been a couple months, but I gotta share a proud uncle moment. This is where the smile comes from on my face. My gotta shout out Jack Abel, my nephew. I just got this video sent to me while we're sitting here. He just hit a walk off in the All Stars, full count, bottom of the seventh, down 5-4, and he just hit a walk off 2-run home run. I'm getting pictures of him getting interviewed and all that sort of stuff. So all good on the personal front, all good on the professional front. Busy, getting ready for a huge CT ABC golf outing on Monday. Sold out both courses, so I'm excited about that. A lot of dot connecting going on. Labor shortages, the skilled labor shortage is just a big issue at this point. It's been a big issue, obviously we know that, but what I'm seeing now is some of these contractors, especially our subcontractors, getting out there and they're getting their hands dirty again, and they're just kind of trudging through the heat and trudging through things to try to figure out where they're going to find the next licensed electrician or licensed HVAC tech or someone in millwork. Or today I had a conversation with someone who's looking for somebody who deals with doors and windows, and he shared the fact that there's no license with it, but try finding someone who knows how to basically a locksmith / window specialist / door specialist. There's not necessarily a school that 17, 18, 19, 20, 25-year-olds are crawling over themselves to try to learn those skills. So that's kind of a lot of building going on, but it's an all hands on deck thing, and there's just not enough people to do it. But
just not enough skilled laborers or not enough mentors out there.
That's pretty much it. All the mentors are saying sayonara, and they're getting their captain's hat, and they're going on vacation
and going to join Anna Maria.
It's all good. At the end of the day, it's good to be out and about and networking with people.
And so, Dan, what's the government doing? Where's the policy and the regulation to help on all of that? And then, Saul, I'm going to you on the tech side. And more.
Well, of course, keeping with the vacation theme, you see my fish is a northern. I went fishing in International Falls, Minnesota. I go every year with Mr. Goodwin. He's our chairman and CEO of Inland Real Estate Group. And we have a group of buddies that fish for, I don't know how many years. I've been fishing with them for 15 years, but it's been a blast. So everybody needs to get out and get your batteries recharged. So batteries are recharged, and we're itching to go. We have the exciting news about interest rates. What are interest rates doing to our commercial real estate world? Well, last year at this time, Inland was looking at 10-year fixed rates at 2.80, and this year, right now, they're over 4 for 10-year. And we're looking at the administration wanting to increase the interest rates, and that shuts down different parts of the economy, as you can imagine. It's harder for deals to happen. When we securitize commercial real estate, our goal is to give a return on investment, and the CDs being at 4.5%, that's a challenge. So you need to make sure to work extra hard. That's where we feel pretty confident Inland that all of the many years that we've been working and putting in relationships, we're able to find off deals that are able to really work for our investors. But over the last, about 18 months, we bought $2.8 billion worth of real estate all around the country. About 50% of those are apartments, and we do sale leasebacks of grocery stores. We bought over 20,000 self-storage units, anywhere from New York, Massachusetts, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Texas, Florida, Wisconsin, Missouri, New Jersey. So all around. But the thing that keeps us on our toes are these interest rates, and that's a big deal. Also, with the regulatory world, we are very much keeping our fingers on the pulse of that. When you look at commercial real estate investing, a lot of different deals need to be done by accredited investors, and Some of the regulatory world wants to possibly take a look at changing that to make it a smaller group, which we think is the wrong way to go. We want to make sure to give people the opportunity to invest in America. So that's the regulatory stuff is always something that is below the radar screen that most people don't know about. But the commercial real estate world, that is probably the biggest issue, are the interest rates right now. So, but Saul is kind of like the guru, so I can't wait to hear what Saul says.
Yeah, where? So if my piece is residential real estate, I can add to that conversation. It is interest rates. We have an issue with inventory. And one of the reasons we have an issue with inventory is, number one, we're not building enough, and we haven't been. The largest component of real estate expense is the land. And so we see some changes in land use to maybe allow for greater density, but still, with the interest rates having risen as quickly as they have, you've got people who've are in low interest rate loans, so they've got no motivation to sell and go into a higher interest rate loan. So the inventory's low. There's no incentive for people owning so there's the buyers out there, but the inventory is really low. And so you're not seeing a collapse in the residential market values for the most part because there's a lack of supply. So that's a big piece. Another interesting piece, I think, if you've been following the Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, and its attempt to purchase Black Knight, which owns Paragon, which has about 250 MLS contracts, and this is a really big story. ICE has been buying components to digitize the loan process, bring costs down for a long time now, for over 10 years. Last May, they got an accepted offer to purchase Black Knight, ICE did, but the FTC stepped in and said, no, we don't want that to take place. And that's been pushed off. There was supposed to be a hearing here in July. That's been pushed off, I think, till September. And behind the FTC, I think, are the GSEs, Freddie and Fannie. They're not really interested in having more private capital come into the housing finance system. And so keep your eyes on the Black Knight purchase by Intercontinental Exchange. That's the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange. Because if that took place, that might help us on the loan expense side and on the interest side. On the data side of real estate, it's kind of interesting. A large broker in Ohio decided to opt out of something called IDX, Internet Data Exchange. And that broker is Howard Hanna. That's a big move. To be able to opt out. Now, there are NAR rules about opt-out having to be a blanket opt-out. You can't just opt out one brokerage firm and not opt out the other brokerage firm, because then you're inviting antitrust observation. And so they opted out completely. That's a big deal on the data front. About 2 weeks ago, I attended a Black Knight conference in Kansas City, and I got to look at all the new products, and that was kind of fun. Saw an AI product that has been around for a while, but I thought it was interesting. It's populating data fields with photographs. And so they go in and take a picture, and then the picture will populate. It knows what the bathtub, it knows the sink. So just real interesting use of artificial intelligence. And then, of course, it can write marketing pieces from that. So lots going on. Summertime.
In the summertime, right? It's all sneaking by in the middle of the summer while everyone's at the beach. The spot market.
Saul, real quick. So if somebody has a 3% fixed mortgage, they're not going to be jumping into wanting to sell and get into a 6%. So they're holding on to it even if they've outgrown the size of their home, right?
Yeah, I mean, and so you see that. And you think about how many people got 3% or even less.
Yeah. Even less. Yeah,
that's a great place to be, Dan, right? Or less. And now people are saying you should sell your house. Well, now if I got to sell my house, I can buy something bigger, but I got to go to 5 or 6. I think I'll wait, because when I look at the news, I can't tell if interest rates are going to go up or down. Maybe they'll go down. Some people say they might go down at some point early next year. So there's this resistance,
right?
And I think that affects the market.
Gotcha.
So your belief is people are sitting on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to drop.
I think there's no great incentive
to jump now, even though you've been in the game and you've been in the business long enough to see interest rates 2007 much higher, 93. Money was free for the last 10 years. 3% is a
Exactly.
gift.
Yeah. So people are sitting on that 3%. There's really not a lot of incentive to move into something higher, to double your payment. Right? I mean, it's just because there's so much uncertainty. So I think that and lack of building then creates this shortage, and that's where we are.
Well, Chris, you can build it, right?
Yeah. We just got to find some
Only
people to do it. That's all.
People to do it.
But the
Gotta find the people, though.
what you're saying, as far as I know on the even on the residential side, that's been something even in my personal life where it's kind of kept us from making any sort of move. And I had an interesting conversation with somebody last night, kind of in the same boat that my family is in, where you're really starting to, there is no real incentive to go buy bigger and pay a higher interest rate. So instead, I found that we're starting to look at why were we going to move? Okay, we're going to move for better education. We're going to move for this. We're going to move for better schools, obviously, these different things. So you're trying to figure out other ways to solve those type of problems rather than, uprooting family and uprooting businesses and uprooting and moving into a different area, which is, it's interesting to kind of look at things in that perspective of like, all right, well, don't like what's going on in this area. Don't like the school system. How do we figure out how to, do we move or pay a higher interest rate somewhere, or do we look into, private schooling or this? It's very interesting to kind of navigate things right now.
Well, and on the commercial side, for example, to your point of, having a hard time finding people to do the work,
Yeah.
I'm having a local problem with trying to find solar vendors, solar contractors who are willing and able to get the supplies required, and and so jobs aren't getting done as quickly as they could be. And so if there are any solar vendors out there, feel free to contact me, because we're looking for reliable installers, people who have knowledge of projects, because the CPACE financing is there, and there's no better time for CPACE financing than through these higher interest rates, because we can offer more and better for a little bit lower rate.
Sure.
And, the Fed last month pausing doesn't really mean anything, because they already sort of threatened that they're going to be, raising rates again at least 2 more times the remainder of this year. So we've still got a lot of waters to navigate here that might be a little bit tipsy or whatever.
Well,
But,
And you just don't retrofit buildings with CPACE, right? You also can do new construction.
Oh, absolutely. So existing buildings, I mean, that's what it was originally intended for. The history of CPACE shows that, it's a fixed improvement to a fixed asset, and it's seeking to improve that aging building stock and making it more energy efficient, and, and possibly even bringing it to the renewable energy side, water conservation, all kinds of different uses for CPACE. But over time, it's evolved into a great partner to fill that gap in the capital stack on new construction. And this is where some of the states are changing their legislation to be able to include new construction, because they had specifically cited retrofit in their original legislation. Whereas here in Illinois, our home state, we didn't make that kind of qualification. And so we didn't have to amend to allow some of the greater facility and flexibility of this product. So it's still a good option, and especially for solar projects, if we could just get more solar vendors doing the work.
Well, but even if the cost of capital is less, as Chris has pointed out, and you just pointed out, the time it takes to do the install, the retrofit, that's a problem. Time kills deals and kills profits above all things. And what I'm hearing from 2 out of 5 is that the time it takes to build, modify, or reposition is now a larger variable than the financing cost itself.
That's
So
correct.
at the end of the day, if I'm investing money and I can beat the T-bill, right, then great. Cash on cash return, let me invest in commercial real estate. But if I have to reposition an asset and I can't reposition it because I don't have the labor to do so, that's a bigger problem.
It's slowing things down, that's for sure.
Well, technology will speed it up, hopefully, because we'll offload it through ISEX and so on.
And so to that point, I wanted to bring up that finally got on board, and not myself personally, I'm going to give credit where credit is due, but to our marketing team took some time to actually use ChatGPT to see what it would come up with in an article created by us, or some kind of new marketing for an email blast. And it was actually pretty fun, and it was fairly accurate, although I had to go through and make some corrections, some modifications, some things that perhaps, we cannot say specifically legally. and so we want to make sure that we make those tweaks and whatnot, and it actually worked out really well because it ended up saving a lot of time. What may have taken maybe 2 to 5 hours to create, just took probably about 20 minutes to correct and modify and get into a decent shape to put out there. So my first experience with it, although not specifically personal, has been excellent.
I think you're going to find it gets better and better because you'll just get better at knowing how to frame your questions.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. What it does, it just saves time. It's my favorite go-to search now.
Mm-hmm.
Because instead of going to Google and searching and then figuring out which are the ads and which are not the ads and then clicking and reading, I get a summary and I know what's right and what's not correct. But you're right, it takes some time. Yeah. But boy, it went through, let's say, 1,000 books or articles for me in a short period of time and brought it back and then let me do my thing with what's there. I love it.
Well, I mean, that brings up a great point with AI. Chris, you mentioned schooling, right? So moving into a neighborhood with a great school. Well, if my child has an AI assistant that's there to teach them one-on-one and to educate them, is being in that neighborhood with the best school as important when they're going to have that AI assistant anywhere?
I guess it's a good point. I guess it depends what's going on in the school, because a lot of it's not necessarily education based either. A lot of it is what's actually just going on in the schools. But yeah, no, I totally understand that.
I'm just such an old school guy. I don't, this AI stuff, there's so much socialization and so much aspect of learning that comes from being with your peers. And so, yeah, I'm a big believer in the old school stuff. And but Saul, you bring up a good point. You have something that goes through a lot of data points for you. That is a good thing. But I wouldn't go there in regards to the kid education piece. It's
well, I don't know that it would be as effective enough, or there would be maybe too much information that's kind of like on the border of being misinformation or whatever. As a mother of 4, grandmother of 10, I can tell you right now, believe me, what Dan is saying about socialization, about, and Becca, I'm sure, will concur that there's nothing like going to a good school in a good school system. Absolutely. And so real estate is always going to provide that function.
So back to location. And to be clear, ChatGPT is Wikipedia, not Britannica. It hallucinates. It can lead you down a bad path. It is trained to sound intelligent. We've all had someone in our lives who uses bigger words. like more better, just because they think it sounds right. Well, ChatGPT is trained to sound intelligent and eloquent. Doesn't mean it's right.
But give it a little time. Now we're talking about something we weren't talking about a year ago. And so you give it a year or 2 or 3. I heard the other day that a major college now is going to have a whole course taught by AI, and then, right. So that's kind of that's a move. It's going to, again, it takes time to socialize stuff. Like I was looking at the first video that was ever done on Realtor.com. I did it. I was using black and white acetate overheads. I was telling people what you needed to be able to utilize this system built by that was going to be on the internet, and then the proprietary network built by the National Association of Realtors, RIN, it was called the Realtors Information Network. What you needed was a 486 computer, 8 megabytes of RAM, and about 500 megabytes of hard drive memory. That was it. That was state of the art, cutting edge.
Wow.
It was less than 30 years ago. So one of the things about AI is it also teaches itself. And so we're going to find new. Imagine, Dan, you talk about the data points. Imagine a doctor who looks at you and they've got data points and they analyze what's wrong with you, and then they tell you, what if they could put your symptoms into something that could analyze a lot more than they ever could to help them make their diagnosis? So there's all kinds of things we really haven't gotten to with this at this point in time. And it's just kind of fun to watch. At this point, we're all just kind of playing with it. But I think there's going to be great use for it as we kind of move into the future. And I was talking to another friend who's a real estate instructor, and I've known him since elementary school.
It's a few years ago, Saul.
Yeah. So he called me today because he's been teaching real estate classes, and he says, and he's younger than me, he says, is it, when you're 73 years old, is that too old to be teaching real estate classes? And my response to him was, it depends on whether or not you like teaching real estate classes. Because if you like it, then there's no age having anything to do with it. But if you don't like it, then you shouldn't be teaching real estate classes. And his response was he doesn't like the students, and not that he doesn't like them personally. And I kind of found this true too. I participate in a group on Facebook for people that want to study to take the real estate exam. I can't believe how many people say I flunked the exam the 3rd time. I flunked the exam the 4th time. When I was teaching real estate principles, people would pass the exam on the 1st try. I mean, so what's happening to the students that want to now take it online? They don't want to take the live classes. The live classes are shrinking. And are they able to absorb as much with some of these new, methods of learning? I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that the student is as well equipped to do some of the things that we used to be equipped to do. And I don't know what the cause of that is, but I think it's an interesting observation from somebody who used to love to teach real estate classes. And I get a call today because he wanted some support in saying, he didn't want to teach anymore. And the reason was that the students didn't seem to be able to learn the material as well, as quickly. I'm not sure.
Well, thank God those students fail, because we want the best people that are out there to be working with clients and not making the real estate industry look bad. So it's good that that they're not getting into the industry, and that's a barrier for them, because that's exactly what we hope happens, is that we get only the best, the brightest that are in our industry. I know that that when I don't sell residential real estate, but I know a heck of a lot of friends and colleagues that do. And the people that I know, they are such a cut above any AI or anything else, because they provide that one-on-one, working directly with someone. Anybody can go and just Google something or whatever, but you have to have that person to be there working with you. And I don't think we're ever going to get rid of that high touch person. I think we're going to be, if you get what you pay for, and I think you're going to make sure to always have a good realtor backstopping the people that are serious about real estate.
Realtors used to be my clients and customers, so I always believed that, but I'm not sure I really believe that anymore. And one of the reasons is, and we all know this, that there are many, many people who sell real estate who are not competent. There are many, many people who sell real estate that do 2 or 3 deals a year. And while we have a number of people who are, Dan, very competent, very good, we have a lot of them that are not. And I used to get involved in these conversations around dual agency. Should we have dual agency? Should one party be able to represent another? Well, prior to 1992, everybody represented the seller because that was the structure of MLS. And after 1992, it changed. But I would always say to people, I would rather have a dual agent, a competent dual agent, than two incompetent single
Absolutely.
agents representing it. So it's like we have a lot of people that sell real estate, and that's an old argument, right? And so the first barrier is the exam, but then there's learning how to sell, learning how to deal with people. It's a complex business that most people don't give it give it its due. It's not as easy as a lot of people think.
And the other thing, Saul, which is interesting to bring up, is the whole world after 9/11 started realizing you have people that are that are not true in representing who they are as buyers, that they represent cartels and their underworld figures, and now you really have to have people that can do their due diligence to know who are, they're not just selling to sell to somebody. They got to make sure it's the right person, and you got to be careful of money laundering and everything else. I mean, that's a whole nother bailiwick. And I have my Series 7 and 63 license, and I'm going through my CE now, and money laundering is a really big issue that comes up during your CE time.
I had a Series 7, Series 24, Series 63 for a number of years. It was interesting and they might not still be doing this, but if you get out of production, you can't have those licenses anymore. So I actually had to let that 7 go and the 24 because I got out of production. Why did I get out of production? I got into technology and I stopped selling securities, and I couldn't keep my securities licenses anymore. And which is real estate is different. You keep your real estate license forever, whether or not you sell anything.
Well, I tell everybody, there's a God when Dan Wagner passed the Series 7 on the first try. That was the hardest test I've ever taken in my life.
What do you guys feel like, these people who are, and I've never sat in on any of these classes. I'm not, licensed. I don't do real estate. But what do you feel kind of, you can, like, is it material? Is it the fact that some of these people think that it's going to be much easier than it is? Are they trying to get in because they hear how much money you can make? Is it that they aren't caught in the mustard in some other thing? Is it, I see Saul kind of nodding. I'm assuming it's a combination of all those, right?
All the above.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, I've been to so many different networking things where, someone hands me a business card for something, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, I also do this. And I only do it a little bit. And the first vibe I get is like, kind of, I'm wondering, like, how much of this, how much selling do you really do? And usually that's on the residential side. But I was just with a gentleman a couple hours ago who young electrical contractor, owns his own company, young guy. And he said, I always kind of look back and I say, I hate when people talk about how the younger generation, because he truly is a younger generation. We're talking, 26, 27 years old, and he has his own company, cut from a different cloth. I tell him that all the time. And I'm like, you got to understand, you really are. Because I know, but I can't stand when people say, this generation. And he said, I'm blowing through apprentices left and right. They come in, they want to do this, they want to do that. And then all of a sudden I have this hour and a half long conversation with somebody, and on the skilled trades on the younger side, it's not so much the testing thing. He seems to think it's a combination of either money, someone else is going to offer a few extra dollars, interest, or the simple fact that they see everyone else working from home. They see what everyone else is kind of up to. So all of a sudden they're willing to almost abandon a trade that they've gone to school for 3 or 4 years, 4 years through high school, and they're willing to walk away from it. It's mind-boggling to me that someone would say, let's say a technical high school, go through a trade, finally get their opportunity, a legit opportunity, and then just go MIA and just start ghosting their potential employer. You kind of wonder what is going on in those schools and in those guidance departments and within the educational system in regards to what are they being taught about, I don't even want to say work ethic. I'm just talking about more manners, or just
Well, you're talking about life
Protocol.
planning.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
career
yeah.
planning.
Like, you're starting off. I can't say that I didn't, start some of my early career stuff off, which wasn't career job stuff, where I didn't do things the way I should have, you know. But if your whole plan is to be an electrician, be an HVAC tech, be a carpenter, be one of those things, you would think that, I don't know. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s. When you had that opportunity to do the thing you wanted to do, that was it. That's what at least that's what you went towards. That's what you strived for. And I just don't see
And
that.
you followed through. I think
Yeah.
the follow through part is the key part of that conversation, whether you're going to become a realtor, commercial, residential, broker, lawyer,
Yeah.
securities. It's
Even
follow through.
And the market back on, like, I know you want to chime in, like, even on the marketing side, like, I deal with a lot of marketing people. I'm curious to see like what you see with all of this stuff, quite frankly.
Well, I have a couple of things I do want to speak to. One of which is, I don't know if anyone else has seen, but Martin Orkett has commented on Facebook a couple of times, and he's 78 and he teaches real estate. And he actually is my mentor, and really the greatest, one of the greatest encouragements in my life. He calls me daughter number 5. I'm number 5. The neatest thing about Saul, you teaching, your friend teaching, Marty teaching, is that you're willing to impart fundamentals that have been consistent and concrete for literally decades. And those decades of experience are something that our generation, and I'm Gen X like Chris, and then millennials, Gen Z, they desperately need that context to the businesses that they're running in real estate, in particular in the trades. And we all now get to start taking on that mantle of training the next generation. So as baby boomers are starting to exit the workforce, I think that there's this gap, and I, in some ways, blame my own generation. Like, we have a generational gap that we're still expecting the mentorship and expecting the leadership and guidance to come from people who are rightfully retired. So we need to step up. We need to see what we can do to teach and learn from our mentors, carry on that mentoring to the next generation. And how learning is done now is so dramatically different than it was. My daughter in first grade was tested herself in her classes, and she's now a 7th grader, but she was testing in her classes to see if she was an audio learner or a visual learner. There were all sorts of things, and they would test every semester or every quarter, and then they'd change the learning pattern and how the kids could learn even at that really young age. So this new generation, these young ones now, are going to come into the workforce, I think, with a lot better self-awareness of how they learn best. And we, as educators and mentors and as older generations, are going to get to reposition our content into a way that they learn best. That being said, she's still a 7th grader. My college student daughter didn't have that kind of self-awareness taught to her and how she learns when she was in school. So she's not as aware. And so she's got to learn herself how she learns best and then apply that and then decide what she wants to do from a trade standpoint. And she's in the medical trades. So also a trade program, went through high school and is working in the real job. And the real job is hard. And she wanted to quit, and she tried to quit, and they told her, no, you're staying here and you're going to keep doing this. You're actually really good at what you do. So a little bit of encouragement and mentorship from the older generation, though, was what really carried her through. And so we all have that onus is on us as the people around them that surround this younger generation. Now, Chris, I find that new grads, and we've had great interns, and we've had fantastic new grads come and work for us. There is a very big learning curve. There is an academic knowledge that hasn't necessarily translated into practical skills that can be, even if they've had lots and lots of training and 4 years of college and taking tons of marketing courses, the practical application of that is why they really need people, right? They really need people who are willing to spend the time. That being said, many of us as employers, we need to hire people who are skilled at their work and don't need that hand holding. So how do we balance mentorship, hand holding, and like, you've got a job, I'm paying you, and you have to get it done because we have business that we have to accomplish. So these are always just the competing kind of priorities there. I don't know. I talked a lot. Sorry.
I'll throw in another idea is that one of the things I'm proud of is being the past president of the Chicago Association of Realtors. One of the things that the Chicago Association did is that they kind of led the way on the YPNs. That's the Young Professional Networks, and that is now a really big deal at the National Association of Realtors. Is the YPNs all across the country, and probably one of the. And it's just that it's an age-old thing of networking and coming together with people who have shared common interests. You're young, new in the industry, you'll be a part of the YPN. You have the realtor associations are probably, for our real estate industry, probably one of the best places for people to be engaged. And I think that that if people can be more involved in their realtor organization, and if they have specialties, obviously you have CCIM for commercial. You have a really fun thing that I've been a part of the last few years is the Realtors Land Institute with Aubrey Cabernis. We should get her on sometime. It is so cool to be able to work with her and learn more about what the Realtor Land Institute, what they do as well. But those kind of groups, networking, growing, the folks that aren't involved in those things, I think really take a back seat, and they don't last in this industry. And it seems like, in my experience, the ones that get involved and go the extra mile, they're the ones that are excelling, and they're the ones that are making the money to that point.
Hey, Dan, what year were you president in Chicago?
2016.
I was president in San Diego in 1993.
Oh my gosh.
Now, and back then, when we were introducing technology, same thing as today, we call them YPNs, but we had studies done. The National Association of Realtors did study, and we had what they called young lions,
okay,
established professionals, and laggards. And this was actually the three categories. It's kind of the same thing, young professional. We call them young lions back then. And I agree with you 100% that people don't get it. A lot of people, they just don't realize the value of organized real estate. They don't understand the value of belonging to NAR or your state association or your local association, that if you participate, if you join committees, that you meet people, you get experience you'd never get, you get opportunities to lead people, you get that feeling, you get to feel what it's like, and so you become more committed to a career, and so you don't beg off as easily. But I get frustrated when I see some of the conversations that take place in social media. People don't have a clue about the value, and all they can do is complain about NAR never does anything for me. Well, if you really go hard, you'd find out that private property rights are critical to real estate. They're critical to your customers, and NAR does better than anybody in protecting these things. And people got a lot of nerve when they don't know. It's like, not always right, but never in doubt. And you got these people, right? And they just don't understand. And if they participated, it would help them in their career. They have no idea.
Well, it's often how the realtors help, like, Chris's business with building and everything. You have oftentimes the realtors are working in concert with all the building trade associations, and then we all come together, and it's this really family of folks that are defending these private property rights, because there's always a politician that sees our industry as the piggy bank. And when you have, like Chicago, when you have just in Crane Chicago business, there was a downtown office building that sold for 42% less than what it was purchased for 6 years ago. I mean, that kind of stuff just is because of the taxes and the crazy crime stuff. So the politicians have to wake up, because that's what we really need to do to understand how we can make real estate a better place. And it's really all encompassing, and it's so holistic. It could take too long for what time we have left to get into it, but the holistic part of this stuff is a big deal.
So we
Well,
talk,
and to Becca's point, she was starting to talk about some of the mentorship and all. I just want to acknowledge all of the comments that are coming in on from Facebook and YouTube, and people who are presently watching and making comments, and that look like they could, use some additional assistance. I'm sorry, but we can't respond directly to you. Or Reagan, I don't know how to respond to them. But Robin, your question regarding CCIM, I was just together with a CCIM group this past week, and here in the Chicagoland area, and I thought it was a national initiative. They're getting into some new mentorships, and there are some really great people. And so, if you contact and connect with me after this, I'd be glad to introduce you to some people who would be more than happy and willing to be mentors, and that are exceptional people with great experience.
Because the
So
mentors are out there. The point
they
is, the
are
mentors
out
are
there.
out there. They're at NAR, they're at CCIM, they're at SIOR, they're in these associations everyone's alluding to. And to the earlier points brought up by the group, barrier to entry, getting your license didn't teach any of us how to work in real estate. It was just a barrier to get started, and we had to be taught and trained. Most of us were lucky enough to have mentors. For those that think they don't need a mentor, look around. This economy, the headwinds in the economy, all the riffraff are going to drop out. I was licensed in 2007. It's fantastic because all of the glorified locksmiths that the group alluded to that don't really work in the business at an unparalleled level, they all fall away because it's really actually quite hard to do this business, to be a broker. So finding those mentors, and thank you, Anna Maria. Robin, thank you for those comments. Emmy, kids have a lack of commitment. Thank you. And others. Sorry to jump in there as we get to the top of the hour. But Chris, outside of the trades, outside of policy, what else can we do? I mean, we've each got, I'm looking at this group, 10 groups of 10 we employ or more under each of us, or are in a division of more than 10. We all take on mentorship roles, Saul included. Saul's been teaching MLSs, 600 different MLSs across the course of his career, walking around. How do we get the next generation to pay attention and actually engage with mentors?
Well, something that as far as something I saw, I'm not sure if I saw it in the chat or if it was brought up, was really digging in and having these younger kids take these assessments and try to figure out what their passions are and what they really kind of want to dig into and what they want. And quite frankly, don't let them. I talk to enough guidance counselors and career counselors from my previous life. Listen, don't let a kid come in and say, I want to be an influencer or a gamer, and let them just walk out with, oh, here it is. I want to be. And I'm not saying that they can't be to a certain extent, but one thing that I push, I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to sit down for a coffee meeting, and the gentleman I sat down with, powerful player in the Hartford area in regards to, commercial real estate development, brought an intern with him. And I loved it because I was able to just communicate with the intern. And I could tell the intern was trying to chime in, and I could tell there were certain things where he was trying to talk his way, out of a wet paper bag type of situation. He was just agreeing with everything we said, ensuring us to death. Years ago, that would bother me because I would look at that young person as, okay, thinks he's a know-it-all or she's a know-it-all. Now I look at it as passion. Yeah, may not know everything, but at least this is a person who's willing to have the communication. So one thing I told that intern, and one thing I tell all the young people I bump into is, and this goes for, we have an emerging leaders group at ABC, that Young Professionals Network and all that sort of stuff, is I will find value in every ounce of communication that's put in front of me. When I'm at a networking event, I was just at one before I came here. I walked in, the person I knew basically passed somebody off to me. I could tell they passed them off to me, but I'm like, you know what? We're going to find some value in this. And if you dig and dig and dig, you're going to find some sort of value in some sort of communication where if you run into that person again, or next thing you know, you find out that they're in another association that you're not involved with, and they're having a networking event, and you could say, hey, let me kind of roll with you and see what that's about. I really think that, and I hate to say a younger generation necessarily, but I'm just going to put it out there, finding that value in communicating and finding that value in why talking to someone face to face is so important and why this is so important. Look, I probably can't read it. I put try chat GPT. That's all I wrote because I haven't tried it yet. Why did I put that out there? Because Saul brought up a great point about how he uses it and how it's going to evolve. And I'm like, you know what? If he's saying it, and then I'm more on Dan's side where I'm a little more old school, but I'm like, I need to, that's the value I pulled out of this last, 50 minutes. And that's not, I'm not here as a student, but I'm always going to be a student. And I think these students need to understand, kids need to understand that they're always going to be learning. There's only so much that can be done in college. There's only so much that can be done in middle school and high school and trade school. And you got to be able to communicate with people and pull the value out of the people that you're communicating with. And, I don't really know how eloquent you can put that, but.
And communication is huge.
Yeah.
You're absolutely on point, Chris, because one of the biggest questions I get asked all the time is they start out with first a comment that, oh, well, I'm afraid to talk to people, and I walk into a room and I don't know how to approach people. So the question then becomes, how do I just introduce myself, and how do I, and it's amazing how often I get asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the answer is just very simple, but it is, definitely something that, younger people tend to have a little bit of anxiety with, I've noticed. And maybe, some of this is a result of the pandemic era recently and everything. And I can understand where people have, closed into their shells a little bit more, but get out there and swim, I'm captaining this water tonight. Just get out there and tell them something interesting about yourself. Hello, I'm Anna Maria, and this is what I do. I'm the captain of the ship this week, whatever. And people take to it, and they want to converse. So one-on-one is so essential in this industry.
So you think, the real estate industry, most people that get into real estate sales come to the business from something else. Mm-hmm. There are very few people that get into got out of high school, say, knew when I was growing up, it wasn't like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be a real estate broker. That's not what the answer was, right? And so people come into real estate for all the reasons, Chris, you talk about it, whether or not they didn't make it where they were, or they got laid off for some reason or another, or the economy changed, or they're at the end of the career and they start a new career. So people that get into real estate, they typically come to it from another walk of life. And so when you get into the real estate business, however you come to it, I think you need to look back on your strengths, the things that you did well in that other walk of life, and then just convert it into real estate. Another thing I think about a lot is that people get into residential real estate. Residential real estate, while it's great and people can make a lot of money, the fallout rate is unbelievable. The attrition is incredible for a number of reasons. Number one, you don't get paid unless you make money, unless you make a sale. So it's 100% commission. That's not easy in any kind of business. You're an independent contractor. That's a tough way to go. You typically don't have enough capital to get you through the slow periods. And if you happen to hit a downturn in the economy during that, you're out of business. And so look at real estate and look at residential sales. And you might not be good at residential sales, but you might be good in some other aspect. You mentioned CCIM. I have a lot of respect for the people that are CCIMs. That's an amazing course of study for people. But think about real estate as an industry. We say under all is the land. And the fact is that you can work in residential real estate, but be looking at other things you can do. You might like the title business. You might like the mortgage business. You might like the construction side of it. You might like the apartment residential side. You might, right? There's when you learn a little bit about real estate, when you get licensed, now what you have is a foundation to find something that you're good at within what I believe is one of the most amazing industries. Again, we say at NAR, under all is the land. And it's true. And everything is derived from the land. And so there's so much opportunity. Don't think that you're boxed in and that if you're not successful in residential real estate sales, that real estate's not for you, because it might be for you. You just haven't found that niche yet.
Well, and I want to highlight, Saul, jumping off your point, getting involved, being a part with other realtors, what you could do. The global C5 is the commercial real estate convention that NAR hosts with CCIM. And that's going to be September 28th, 29th, and 30th in Atlanta. And I'm going to be going. I know I'll be speaking at it, but I really recommend anybody that's watching this, take a look at going to C5. And it's been a wonderful thing. Charlie Oppler started this, and Kenny Purcell is continuing it with the leadership teams of NAR. It's something that's pretty amazing. And Atlanta is going to be the first year it's been in Atlanta. It's been in New York for the last few years. So take a look at C5.
And we'll include that in the show notes for C5, not to mention CRETech coming up in September. Becca, you were jumping up and down there for a moment. I guess you're going to C5 and CRETech. There's a discount. And just make sure you know that you say you know Dan when you go to C5 for a discount. Or you can try. There's so many opportunities to do very well in commercial real estate and residential real estate. And as Saul pointed out, become a specialist. Be a cut above everyone else, because everyone and their uncle might be a residential realtor that is out there, but not everyone is a specialist in industrial or multifamily or development land, and very few are CCIMs, which was the original college degree in commercial real estate. It is the highest and most respected designation you can have.
Absolutely.
In the industry, and rightfully so. That being said, we're at the top of the hour here at 6:57. What's the one takeaway for the audience that you'd like to pass on? Keep in mind, we're now global, so other languages are accepted. Anna Maria, let's start there. C5, we're going to send the links out in the show notes. What's the one takeaway for you, Anna Maria?
You know what? There really are truly great mentors out there. And so just hook up with somebody or give me a call and I'll connect you with some wonderful mentors in the industry. There's a lot of great people out there, and many of them are on this program. So kudos to all my fellow panelists here. We love you.
Thank you. We're all going to get captain hats with the CRECo logo.
Absolutely.
And Becca, what's the biggest takeaway this month from your?
Well, I really think that 2023 is a year of strategic growth. I think this is a time where people are exploring new markets. And to build on what we've talked about today about communication, it's time to communicate all of that strategy so that people know what you're doing so that they can help you on your journey.
And if they don't know how to communicate that, they should call you and figure out what marketing really means.
Oh my gosh. We'll help with anything. Of course. That's what we're here for.
I love it. And Chris, on the construction side, besides, hey, people jump in and do the trades because we need you desperately. What else?
Yes. So I'm going to stick with my theme. I started the show off with a shout out and shouting out my nephew for something completely unrelated to our show. So I'm actually going to continue and say, I'm going to stick with the networking thing. And I'm going to shout out my friend, Julie Brown, and encourage everyone, the younger generation, especially, to look into a book called This SHIT Works by Julie Brown. It's a very simple book. She's an awesome keynote speaker, has her own podcast. And it's one of those things where I knew a whole lot before I picked that up. And then I picked that up and I found more. And, I like to pass on knowledge wherever I can. So I'll just stick with that. So.
All right. Dan.
So obviously C5, come. I do want to highlight that I'm a little bit old school. I think that hard work outpaces intelligence sometimes, or book smarts. So hard work is something that will always get you through. And so old school networking, old school being involved with NAR, your state and local associations, that's the way to go.
Ask for the help will be there, and persistence over, just keep moving forward.
Yep.
And Saul?
I'd say seek out your local association of realtors. Look for opportunities to participate. There are committees. You'll find something you're interested in. You don't need to run the committee. You want to participate. You're going to meet other people. You're going to learn things. And then go back always and review the fundamentals. And you're right, Dan, it's all about hard work. It's about willing to do the hard work. And if you do in real estate, there's a spot for you.
Absolutely. Putting in your dues, doing the hard work, climbing the ladder, so to speak. On my email signature, on my end, my top thing today, based on everything I've heard and everything that's happening, an unplanned phone call is never an imposition. I can't tell you how many people I see today, young professionals, that are candidly afraid to get on the phone, let alone meet someone in person. They just won't get on the phone. They want to email, they want to text, and they're just hidden behind a keyboard. And there's no way to build a relationship and a rapport with people behind a keyboard. You need that connection, that in-person growth, like going to C5, like mentorship, and so on. And I will give a hat tip to Marty, who's watching now. There is no replacement for experience, right? Find an experienced person, grab onto them, and get on the phone. Where I sit. I want to thank our audience for tuning in. I want to thank my co-hosts here for all the incredible things they do in the industry and for coming on the show. Mr. Mendoza, our producer behind the scenes, for all he does. With that, join us next month and every month, first Thursday of the month. Don't forget to check out our sector interviews. Mr. Mendoza, will you lead us out?
For tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable, powered by CRECo.ai, your source for the latest in real estate and technology. For past episodes, sector interviews, and more great content, follow us on all social media and YouTube at CRECollaborative. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and share. It really does help. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Real Estate Roundtable.